was the cruelest tradition in your family? In my family, we were required to forget one family member completely every 5 years, erasing them from photos and never speaking their name again, because Mom said it kept us from getting emotionally bloated. My mother treated relationships like expired food that needed to be thrown out before they rotted. She'd grown up in foster care, being moved every few months, and decided that attachment was a disease that made people weak. Dad was a failed psychiatrist who'd lost his license for experimenting on patients with memory suppression techniques and saw our family as his personal laboratory. Together, they'd created this sick system where emotional connections had expiration dates. I watched them erase my uncle from existence when I was 7, burning his photos while my cousins sobbed, and Mom said, "Tears are just withdrawal symptoms from an emotional addiction." On my 18th birthday, instead of giving me keys to a car or money for college, my parents announced that I had been selected as the next family member to be forgotten. The lottery wasn't random at all, but based on who they thought was getting too attached to others. "You've been spending too much time with your little brother, and it's making both of you soft," Mom explained while Dad pulled out the official forgetting schedule. In 6 months, my entire existence would be systematically erased from the family. First my photos, then my bedroom, then my name, until even my 7-year-old brother wouldn't remember having a sister. My parents would give me $300, and I was expected to move to a new state and never return. If I ever tried to come back or contact them again, they'd call the police and report me for stalking. The 6-month countdown was like being slowly lowered into my grave. My parents started the process immediately by removing one photo of me each day from the family albums and making my siblings watch as they burned them in the backyard memory pit. They installed a timer in my room that counted down the days until I became nobody and forced me to wear a name tag that said "soon to be forgotten" at family dinners. The worst part was watching them train my little brother to forget me through daily drills where they'd punish him if he mentioned my name or acknowledged my presence. When he'd cry and reach for me, Mom would hold him back, saying, "She's already starting to disappear. Don't make this harder by holding onto a ghost." They made me document my own erasure by writing goodbye letters to each family member that they'd burn unopened because forgotten people don't get to leave final words. 2 months before my erasure date, they started referring to me as the temporary one and removed my place setting at dinner, making me eat standing in the corner like I was already a ghost haunting my own life. Mom sent me listings to cheap, dirty apartments in the next state over as a courtesy, reminding me that soon I wouldn't be allowed anywhere near their house or my little brother. I decided I needed to make myself impossible to forget for my brother's sake. I documented everything about our sick family tradition and hid copies everywhere they'd never think to look. I recorded videos with my brother where I taught him memory games using my name and face, hiding USB drives and his favorite toys that he'd find years later. When I found my uncle's old address in Dad's files, I wrote to him explaining that he had 2 nieces who still remembered him and included recent photos of my cousins. The response I got back changed everything because my uncle revealed that the forgotten members had been organizing for years, waiting for someone still on the inside to help them expose what our parents had done. When my parents discovered I'd been contacting the forgotten relatives, they moved up my erasure date to that night and began the emergency forgetting protocol they'd developed for contamination events. They locked my brother in his room and played audio loops saying, "You never had a sister," while drugging his juice with Dad's leftover psychiatric medications. Mom started calling family members to prep them for my immediate erasure, warning them that mentioning me after midnight would result in their own forgetting. They brought in my cousins to watch as they threw my belongings into a bonfire, making them chant, "She never existed," while I screamed that I was still right there. Dad pulled out his old medical equipment and said forgotten people sometimes needed help disappearing completely, especially ones who'd proven they couldn't let go gracefully. "At least she's saving us $300, he said, sharpening his knives. I wasn't just going to be exiled anymore, I was going to be killed. But the forgotten relatives had been monitoring my parents' house and knew the fire meant things were escalating badly. They called the cops, who burst in and found my brother unconscious and me locked in a closet. I told them everything, and my parents got 10 years for child endangerment and drugging a minor. My brother recovered, but still wakes up panicked that I've disappeared.